you'd hear people come to therapy and they say, sometimes I feel like a child inside. It's because the person hasn't come to the point where they have matured emotionally to behave as an adult. So an adult child would be someone who grew up in an environment that is dysfunctional. Hence, this person has proceeded on to harbor fear, to harbor doubt in the actions and the behaviors they exhibit while in their adulthood. There is a point where this person, due to what was happening at home, due to the unpredictability, due to the lack of knowing or being sure this is going to happen, then you start living with doubt. That doubt can cause you to stay stagnated while other people of your age are doing things. So
hey roommate, welcome or welcome back to the same room, a place where we incubate hope as we starve our fears and our insecurities, a place that we have created for you and me to be more happier, more healthier and more healed. Mambo vipi? Hali yako vipi? Leo na siku zote nafahamika kama Ruth Ngati. How are you all doing? Na kabla tujaendelea, ningependa kukuambia, if you're not plugged into the same room, please make sure that you're plugged in. Why? So that when you have a new episode, when you have something new coming up, you can be notified. Kwa nini nasema hivyo? Kwa sababu hapa ni mahali ambapo kwa tena tumejenga ama tumetengeneza ili mimi na wewe tuweze kuinua na kujengana, kuelimishana, vile vile kuhamasishana kuhusiana na mambo tofauti, mambo mbalimbali ambayo yanatendeka katika familia zetu, katika jamii yetu. Kwa nini familia? Tunasema familia ni miongoni mwa vigezo vikuu tena sana katika jamii yetu, na bila familia hatuwezi kuwa na jamii. Na ndio maana tuko hapa tuweze kuhakikisha kwamba mambo ambayo yanatendeka katika jamii yetu, mambo ambayo yanatendeka katika familia zetu ni mambo ambayo yananipa mimi na wewe uhuru wa kukua na kujiendeleza. Kwa hivyo ningependa kufahamisha kwa tena, if you're not plugged into the same room, please make sure that you are plugged in. And how are you going to make sure that you are plugged in? You're going to be plugged in by making sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're going to make sure that you are plugged in by making sure that the notification button is on. All right? Na kwenye studio zetu siku ya leo mtazamaji, I'm not alone. We have a person and a face that is not new to us, but he is here to make sure that we educate each other, we uplift each other, and to make sure ya kwamba mahusiano ambayo pia yanatendeka ndani yetu ni mahusiano ambayo yanatupa uwezo ama ujuzi wa kutangamana na watu katika jamii. Kwa hivyo, without further ado, I would like my guest today, our guest today, our mental health coach today, to introduce himself.
thank you so much, Ruth. My name is Sami Ombisa. I'm a mental health coach, specializing in addictions of various kinds and also substance use disorders. I am the director of Fahari Wellness and Life Coaching and also a co-director at Vitality Wellness Limited. And I am glad to be here, Ruth, to talk about this great topic.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sami, for creating time to be here so that we can have a society or even a space where people are free to communicate with us, where people are free to even have good relationships with themselves, within themselves, as well as also relating with other people. Now, so that we can start on to this topic. The reason as to why I chose today's topic, before I even came to learn that there was something about it, I started thinking, why would someone look at someone's behavior? Why would someone look at someone's method of interaction with other people?
Yes.
Na amwambie kwa lugha ya mtaa jinsi ambavyo tunasema ya kwamba huyu ako na utoto. You see? And further into my research, digging deeper into my research, I saw there's something that is called an adult child. You see?
Yes.
And from your point, as a mental health coach, I believe it's an issue that is related to our mental health.
Yes.
So coming from you as a mental health coach, when you talk about an adult child, who is this adult child? What do we mean when we talk about an adult child?
Great. Thank you. So an adult child would be someone who grew up in an environment that is dysfunctional. Hence, this person has proceeded on to harbor fear, to harbor doubt in the actions and the behaviors they exhibit while in their adulthood. Yes.
So, them coming from a dysfunctional environment.
Yes.
When you talk about dysfunctional, something that is dysfunctional, a dysfunctional family, a
Yes.
dysfunctional working environment, what is that?
So a dysfunctional, let's use the example of a family, which is very common to us. A dysfunctional family will be one that is lacking the basic functions of a family. For example, a family should provide love. A family should provide security. A family should provide the basic needs that somebody needs. And also, a family is the only place that you interact with the people of your kind, for example. And so when those are missing, then they are also, in a way, continually disturbed by behaviors such as, separations, such as divorce, such as alcoholism or substance use problems within the family. Then we can say that is a family that has a dysfunction. Many people use the word in the different way, in the wrong way rather, but a dysfunction does not necessarily mean a family where there is no mother and father. There can still be a mother and father, or the parents, but within that presence of the two parents still have a dysfunction. For example, the two parents are involved in alcoholism, and so that brings about the dysfunctionality. Or the two fathers are involved in behaviors that traumatize. For example, last time we talked about emotional abuse or physical abuse. That is already a dysfunctional family. And so many people come from dysfunctional families without them knowing that is the case.
That is the case.
Yes.
They might not know it's the case. Can you say they might not know that's the case because that is what their mind
Yes.
is already familiar to?
Yes.
Can you say that?
Because they've not known anything else. And when you're in an environment that only exposes you to what you can see, you're never challenged. Yes. You're never challenged with either a new way that you can look at those issues or of life, or you're never challenged with any other environment that makes you look want to look different, because that's the only way you have seen life, and that's the only way you have known what is happening.
Okay. Before we started having this conversation, I spoke to you about hiyo lugha ya mtaa ambayo watu wanatumia kwamba mtu ako na utoto in relation to an adult child.
Yes.
And they are very basic things. They are very important things that you have spoken about in relation to what is an adult child. Na tukisema mtu ako na utoto, what is the difference ya mtu ana utoto kwa lugha ya mtaa na this adult child thing?
Okay, now that we have used lugha ya mtaa. So tukirudi kwa lugha ya mtaa ni kwamba mtu anaweza kuwa na utoto kutokana na tabia zake tu, sio kwamba mazingira aliyokulia yanamsababisha kuwa na tabia ambazo zinampelekea yeye kuonekana kwamba kutokana na makuzi yake ndio sababu ana matatizo haya ya kutokujiamini, haya matatizo ya kutokuwa na uwezo wa kufanya maamuzi ambayo kwa umri wake anahitaji kufanya. Kwa mfano ni mwanaume ambaye tayari ameshabalee na ameshakuwa ni mtu wa umri kama wa miaka 20. Anategemewa kuweza kufanya maamuzi fulani kwa umri wake. Lakini utakuta kama anafika wakati ambapo anacheza kutumia vitu kama vile vya watoto wa umri wa miaka 6, basi tutasema huyo inawezekana ana matatizo ya makuzi tu, lakini sio kwamba ametokea kule kwenye mazingira ya utotoni kwa yalisumbuka ndo sasa akafikia hapa. So in English, what we are trying to say is that you can have behaviors that are childish, not necessarily because you've come from a dysfunctional environment, but because you have, in your development, you are not able to navigate a certain developmental stage. And that means maybe when you were meant to be taught how to use a potty, for example, to help you learn that, you know, when I feel a certain way, I need to defecate, for example, and that did not happen. It means it goes all the way to disturb you into your adulthood, and you might find, for example, people who can go into the, sorry to say, to the washroom, and they leave it dirty after using it without cleaning. That means they might have, from their childhood, picked or lacked to pick the right behaviors, and then work on them as they grow, mature with those behaviors, knowing that hygiene is a good thing, and therefore I need to practice hygiene as I grow up, and know that even the hygiene is good for me and for the other people. So if they go, for example, to the toilet, they can leave the toilet without leaving the place clean. And that could be as a result of the childhood failure of a stage that was supposed to be navigated, like being taught to use the potty or being taught to use kind words. There's an age where when a child starts to learn communication, to talk, they should be taught how to use kind words, for example. And so this person grows with some mentality of entitlement, not knowing that it is actually a mistake he or she is doing when she speaks in a certain way to other people instead of showing them kindness. Because if you're kind, it doesn't mean you're weak. You're only trying to make the environment in which you interact with people to be better for everyone. So those can be the differences. Those who have come from a dysfunctional environment and those who didn't navigate a developmental stage. But all this, as you can see, are happening in the childhood. And so this brings about the idea that a lot of childhood experiences can catch up with people in their adulthood, causing them now to exhibit these behaviors that we are talking about. For example, somebody being referred to as an adult child. Yes.
I love that example. Tukisalia pale pale, there's something that you're speaking about, the way this person now, when it comes to them being like having that entitlement thing.
Yes.
Na sasa tukizungumzia hili, tunaingia pale kwa the common characteristics, ama let's say the signs and symptoms of adult child syndrome, adult child problem.
Yes.
Kwa sababu it's a problem, it's a syndrome, because it's a mental health related issue.
Yes.
Tuko pamoja? So now, among the common characteristics of an adult child, sasa uje na zingine, ningependa for you to talk about when someone feels like a child inside. Because when you're talking about an adult child, there's someone who will end up thinking, but this is how I feel sometimes. Am I okay? When someone feels like a child inside. And when you talk about feeling like a child inside, what are we really talking about?
Good. So you'd hear people come to therapy and they say, sometimes I feel like a child inside. It's because the person hasn't come to the point where they have matured emotionally to behave as an adult. And so the guilt or those feelings of shame, those feelings of doubt will definitely tell you this person is suffering from this syndrome we are calling adult child. And that means if they are feeling like a child, also to a certain extent, this person will be expecting to be treated like a child. For example, I know children are sometimes self-centered. If I use an example of a boy, the age between, let's say, 4 and 7, maybe they like being around their toys, or if it's a girl, it's their doll, and that's the one thing they love. And they reach another stage where when they now start learning how to use the remote for the television, they actually would want to always be the ones using it to choose the channel that they should watch. So as a person who feels like a child inside will also exhibit those kind of entitlement behaviors. They feel they're entitled to be served first. And therefore, if it is not happening, they feel offended because for them, can't these people see like I am the youngest here, or I am the one who is vulnerable, or I am the one who needs to be given the priority based on how I am feeling. But did you know your feelings cannot be seen by people until you speak about them.
Exactly.
And that's why when they come to therapy, it's very easy for us to pick and say, from what you're telling me, there's a likelihood that this and this happened in your childhood, and you'd see many people saying yes. And that's why you find them behaving that way. So that feeling, it's always haunting them in their inside, but the people outside don't really know until it's somebody maybe who's trained to pick the behaviors and match them with their age and see that it's so inappropriate, and therefore help them to try to navigate those kind of challenges.
Na umesema ya kwamba these people, the selfishness in them.
Yes.
So when it comes to that kind of selfishness and someone feeling like a child inside them, how difficult is it for them to navigate marriage? Am I asking so? Kwa sababu tumeshasema tulipokuwa tukianza, when you are defining an adult child, this is someone who has a problem of navigating relationships with other people around them. These are people who are not emotionally mature. And when you talk on the same, when you talk about emotional maturity, what is emotional maturity? So that you can have a foundation, a good foundation on what you're talking about.
Good. So emotional maturity has to do with your stages of life. For example, a child, to express their emotion, let's say an infant, they will cry because they cannot talk. That's how an infant will express themselves, and you'll check maybe if they are wet, you'll change their pampers, or you'll check and see the time this baby ate, and now we should be giving them some food. It's time for them to eat. As the child moves on to another stage, maybe that is school stage, where now they're going to kindergarten or early primary years, if they are hungry, they can actually tell their teacher or their parent that I want to eat. You see? So that's now another difference of that part, where we are talking about the maturity being aligned with your stage of life. So that at the age of 18, where in most countries it is regarded that you have now become of age and you're being regarded as an adult, it means then I should be able to exhibit behaviors that are considered in social circles as, appropriate, and therefore showing my maturity, how I communicate with people, how I also treat people, and also how I expect to be treated, whether I understand myself in terms of gender behaviors. I cannot be wearing a long dress that a lady should be wearing, yet I am a man or I'm a boy at the age of 19. So that maturity is one that will help somebody who meets you to tell that actually this is a person who is emotionally mature, because they can act in a way that is appropriate to their age. And that's what we mean by the maturity.
Emotional maturity. Now,
Yes.
What are some of the other common characteristics? What are some of the other common signs and symptoms of this adult child syndrome or adult child problem?
Perfect. So one that is very common and we meet a lot is when it comes to what we call life transition. Life transition are things to do with how do you make choices for your career. Maybe parents have taken you to school until now you're of age to determine that now that I trained as a psychologist, I need now to determine whether I'll become a child psychologist or I'll become a sports psychologist. And that means I should have it in my mind to make the transition first in my mind before I do it physically. But if I now lack that and have that dependency to go back to my parents and ask them to always tell me what to do, and I'm at that age, that can be a sign of an adult child.
Yeah.
The other transition challenge that we see in adult child is when it comes to relationships. And I mean romantic relationships where somebody wants to get into a marriage. They get into a marriage physically, but emotionally they are not in the marriage, because to them marriage might have been just something to do so that I am seen or known to be in that marriage, but the things that need to happen in marriage are giving me a challenge. So it means transiting from singlehood to becoming a married person becomes a problem, and that can be regarded as a transition problem when it comes to adult child. The other one is mental health disorders. You'll see that somebody who is an adult child, because they have fear and they have doubt. Apprehensive fear is definitely what we define as anxiety. And so you'll find that this person will always suffer anxiety. They are not able to make decisions that are appropriate at the right time, and therefore becoming so reliant on other people to help them make the decisions. And when I make a decision for you, I'll make it based on my understanding, but not based on your needs, not based on your goals, not based on your future plan. Therefore, when you go back to parents, for example, to make decisions for you, then you end up in that stage where you become an adult child. The other one that is very common is the lack of solving conflicts.
Yes.
Remember, we are human beings. We shall interact with people. We shall sometimes find ourselves in conflicts. And conflicts can also be good, only that how we resolve them is what determines whether we come out in a good way or we struggle. And so for those who are adult children, they may never, because maybe of things like entitlement and all that, ever say that indeed, in this situation, I should be the one who should be saying sorry. Instead, because of the entitlement and maybe the ego that has come in at that age, now they feel it's appropriate for me to injure other people, either physically or emotionally, and get away with it. So that is also a problem with that group of people. Communication issues, very common. Remember, as you've talked about relationships, there is no single relationship that can work well without good communication. And so one thing that I see that lacks in this kind of people is the simple analogy I like using of the 3 C's of communication, where this person cannot communicate clearly. That's the first C. The second C is where this person cannot communicate completely. You know? And then the third C is where the person cannot communicate concisely. For you now to say, okay, these 2 balls look the same, but this is a basketball and this is a football. They cannot describe that. So their communication becomes a problem. And when it comes to somebody communicating completely, for example, if we are using a relationship, it means they are in a relationship where they wait for the other person to communicate to determine their actions. Remember from the definition we said, an adult child is one also who struggles in their actions and behaviors based on their childhood experiences. So in childhood, the parents would tell them, or the guardian or the caregiver would tell them what to do. Can you push that table? Please pick your books from the table. They were being told. But now they've come of age and now they cannot navigate that themselves. That kind of communication also is a problem. And then we also have what is very important, which is boundaries. Either these people cannot respect boundaries or they cannot establish boundaries. And those are 2 very important things, especially those who are in this modern world like we are, and they are in the corporate world, where you're in an institution that requires certain policies and rules to be followed, or where you're working with people of a different gender. There is a way you have to create a boundary for yourself and for these people that you work with so that you reduce the conflict. Remember, lack of boundaries has caused a lot of families to enter into conflicts, a lot of friendships to break because I stepped into a space that I wasn't supposed to at the wrong time, and it hurt the other person, and so it caused the break of the boundaries. Yes.
And then there's a very, very important thing that I would like our viewer to understand.
Yes.
When you're talking about boundaries, we do not create boundaries for other people.
Yes.
We create boundaries for ourselves.
Yes.
Because there are people who believe this is what I want. So for me, because I have not communicated properly, I'll now get to a point whereby I'm not interacting with people well because I think they are disrespecting me. Boundaries are not meant for other people. Boundaries are meant for you.
Yes.
And when I say meant for you, so that you can navigate relationships properly
Yes.
with people.
Yes.
So you don't sit down and start thinking, people know what you want. People know this is not supposed to happen to me.
Yes.
People know you're not supposed to come past this point.
Yes.
Boundaries are meant for you.
That's what we call the aura. The aura is the space around you that should be really private. And unless you have allowed somebody into that space, maybe if it's your partner, your love partner or whatever, it's a space that should be respected by everyone, regardless of whether somebody is a child or is an adult. We should always respect boundaries.
Yes. And then something else, when you're talking about boundaries, before we go to the next thing, when you're talking about, where have I forgotten? When you're talking about boundaries, it's very important for people to understand when we have these, when we have created proper boundaries, it even becomes easy for other people to, what do I say?
Yes.
For other people to respect them.
Exactly.
Because when I do not have a boundary myself, it becomes very easy for, it's even noticeable that you do not have these boundaries because you can just do anything, because you can just say anything.
Exactly.
You see, that is something that you should understand as a person.
Yes.
Because when you're talking about mental health issues, you're supposed to take care of yourself, not only physically, but also emotionally, but also mentally.
Thank you.
Before we go on to the next thing, I would like, there's this author that you mentioned, Janet G. And before we go to the next thing, I would like you to help us understand what is this that she talked about. She said these characteristics, we are from talking about the signs and the symptoms of an adult child.
Yes.
Ama the problem that an adult child is likely to face.
Yes.
Akasema ya kwamba these characteristics are caused by the fact that you never knew when or if your parent would be emotionally available to you. You only knew unpredictability and inconsistency. Once the drinking problem began or anything else that was happening in that house began, you simply did not exist because now you are out of the picture. For example, you knew your needs would not be met until the drinking episode and any other accompanying issue were over. That is what she said.
Yes. And these are very good. The author did very well to come up with the book of children, adult children of alcoholics. And this is Dr. Janet Voits. And that's, she was trying to bring about the idea that we need to understand that alcoholics who are parents will have children who will end up into things like neglect, into things like experiencing trauma, and all those are going to affect these children in their adult life. And when we see those behaviors, we need first to look at the childhood experiences these children experience. And now, one of the experiences that you have talked about is unpredictability, where you don't really know whether we are going to have a meal today. You don't really know whether your dad will take you to school tomorrow or your mom. You don't really know whether you'll ever see your dad or you'll ever see your mom because maybe it's a single parent situation. So, and when those things are happening, then you keep internalizing that feeling of not being sure. Therefore, you start doubting. Therefore, you start becoming, feeling the shame. Why am I not like other children? And as you grow into adulthood, you find now you are not able to navigate certain situations of life where confidence is needed. You are having doubt. You want to go for an interview, but you still, I have heard of situations where a lady was telling me the daughter tells them to take them to the interview. The daughter cannot just go to the interview herself. Mom has to take me to the interview. And these are the kind of examples we are talking about. And when you look at that situation, you realize there's a problem from the childhood experience that is now affecting this girl. And now she doubts herself. Even with the education that she has, she still cannot stand and, articulate herself in an interview situation. So that unpredictability can be seen, as you have explained, as she has explained, as one of the situations that happen in the childhood. And when it comes forth into the adult life, you find doubt sets in or lack of confidence, and those can be dangerous. Yes.
Unajua umesema hivyo nikakumbuka there are memes that go around social media. Wakati ambapo umesema the child, the lady tells her mom to take her for the interview.
Yes.
And apparently, you know, there's this meme that says, even at my big age, I still want my mom to take me to the hospital because nafaa kuambia daktari nini? What am I supposed to tell her? I mean, mom, I've already told you what is happening, so let's go so that you can talk to the doctor. Is that an adult child problem, Mama?
It is.
It is.
It is. Because professionally, the doctor needs to be with you in the consultation room unless when it is a requirement or it's really required for you to be in that consultation room, because it's you who feels where the pain is, it's you who feels where, or the symptoms, it's you. If it's, for example, your tummy rumbles, it's you who can explain how it rumbles. Another third party cannot come to explain how your tummy rumbles. And so, yeah, those challenges where adult children cannot take themselves into interviews, like seeing the doctor or taking themselves into a school canteen and requesting for certain food, they will first, struggle. They will just eat whatever that is brought to them. And this lack of decision making, lack of judgment, lack of proper analysis is a problem. And so you can always tie it to something that has happened during their development, and that means in their childhood. Yes.
You need therapy. If you joke around with that meme, you need therapy.
Yes.
And then,
Yes.
How can a parent help a young adult who is struggling with adult-child syndrome, adult-child problem? Why am I saying so? Umesema, tukianza ya kwamba, when someone is having these adult-child problems, there's a very high possibility someone does not know.
Yes.
So how can a parent help their child who is undergoing this problem?
First of all, is for the parent to have an understanding. So that means the parent needs to come into a place of self-awareness of what is affecting their child. Unfortunately, to say, sometimes even the parent, him or herself, does not know what is happening to her or him, and therefore they cannot help the other person. Remember, you cannot really deal with something you know. You cannot deal with what you don't know. Yes. And so that's why I'm saying the first point is coming to a point of understanding what is going on. And now, if this is what is going on now, how do we approach it? Secondly, the other thing is to apply a lot of sympathy or high-level empathy. Sorry, not sympathy, empathy. Where you fit into the shoes of that child and try to look back, you as a parent or a caregiver or a guardian, to see whether there are areas that you have or you might have contributed for this child to get where they are at that point in life.
Yes.
And if that is the case, then it means it is very important that when we are talking about adult children, that if they have parents who are still alive, a point should come where the two try to navigate these issues together and collectively, so that there is the third point, which is open communication, where we call a spade, where we look at things as they are and deal with them as they are, without hiding, without, sweeping under the carpet. And if we come to a point of open communication, looking at things and seeking, the fourth point is seeking professional help.
Yeah.
That means then, if you're working with a therapist, the therapist is able to use various approaches of therapy to see whether, if it is childhood, is really affecting this person and how it is affecting this person, therefore coming up with appropriate strategies to deal with it. The other thing is self-care. Self-care is very important for both the parent and the adult child.
Yeah.
Because if you don't care for yourself, it means there are chances that if you are stressed, like we are seeing, a person who has doubt, a person who has frustrations will definitely be stressed. And so if the stress cannot be managed, then it means this person is likely to continue that way, get into a serious relationship like marriage, bring those adult child behaviors into the marriage.
Yes.
They'll have children. These children will be brought up under the same circumstances. And remember, there is some research that shows that, for example, parents who are alcoholic or parents who have suffered this particular problem will again bring up another generation of similar children becoming adult children. So we are just increasing the number of people who are unstable mentally, people who are emotionally unstable, people who cannot believe in themselves and make decisions that are appropriate at their age. And as we do that, we end up bringing up very dangerous generation, because at the end of the day, I can't communicate to you, you can't communicate to me. There are no boundaries. And so you can imagine if all those things are going on, no boundaries, bad communication, where I can, not respect you. If we go on that way, we are just killing ourselves slowly. Yes.
I love that explanation.
Yeah.
And so nikurudishe nyuma kidogo. When we're talking about who an adult child might be, and it is also related on how a parent can help this. A grown-up person, tumesema legally, an adult is someone who is 18 years and above.
Yes.
So anyone who is 18 years and above and still living with their parent are really an adult child?
If the reasons are not, cannot be resolved. For example, a reason that cannot be resolved is where you have moved with your parents to a foreign country and you cannot be employed, you cannot get a license to drive in that country, you can only be under certain care. Then that means that you can stay with your parents, but not exhibiting these particular behaviors that we are talking about. But if it is as a result of where you're coming from in terms of your childhood, the environment in which you grew up, and now you're exhibiting behaviors that are showing you're doubtful, behaviors that are showing that you are dependent on decision making. I want to marry, but I have to let my mom tell me the kind of girl that I should marry. And after my mom has told me the kind of girl I should marry, I should go to the extent now of asking my mom how much, or my dad, how much I should love how I should love this particular girl. Those are behaviors that indicate you are dependent on the decisions of a third party, and especially parents, and therefore you are an adult child. But if you are living with them as a process of transiting into something else, maybe short term, or even if it's a year, but you are with the mind of moving to another stage of doing things, then that will not be defined as an adult child. Okay, there should be a background of childhood experiences. Yes.
Thank you for explaining that, kwa sababu kwa community I posted a poll and someone asked me, and someone replied that by saying, what about an adult person who is living at their parents' house, maybe as a result of financial crisis, maybe as a result that they do not have the capacity to be living on their own at that particular moment.
Yes.
Yes,
those ones will not be defined as adult children. However, if while they are there, they now start becoming overly dependent and not having initiative. There's a way you can live with your parents, but you have the initiative to go and look for maybe a course to continue with your master's, or you are looking for a job, it's only that jobs are not available, or you're involved in something maybe at church or at the mosque or whatever it is, then that can be defined differently, because it's just a situation, maybe the economic situation. But when you have to exhibit behaviors that you can't do nothing without involving, then that becomes adult child.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Tukimalizia, ningependa now how does an adult child syndrome impact our mental health? Mwanzo tukianza kabisa tumesema ya kwamba it's an issue that is related to our mental health.
Yes.
And in relation to that, let me read something. Unfortunately, being raised by parents who struggled with mental health or even substance use disorder increases the likelihood of that adult child will also experience these issues.
Yes.
Jinsi ambavyo umeweza kusema. Anasema ya kwamba research shows that adult children of alcoholics have significantly high rates of anxiety, depression, panic disorder, phobias, and substance use disorder. So now, essentially, the volatility and stress associated with growing up in a dysfunctional environment leaves an adult child with the same sense of shame and lack of trust in themselves or even others. So from a point of a mental health coach, how does this adult child problem affect our mental health?
Perfect. So you've already heard from what you're reading there that there is a point where somebody who is in that state of adult child or who is in that environment that has come from traumatic experiences most likely going to end up into substance abuse.
Yes.
Now, substance abuse leads to dependency, and that's what we call addiction. And that addiction could be of any substance. It could be of cocaine, it could be of marijuana, it could be of, certain behaviors, what we call the process behaviors. And that means then a substance use disorder is also classified as a mental disorder because it affects the functions of the brain. That's the first point. The second point, somebody who has anxiety, panic disorder, phobias, they will not be able to keep good relationships, either relationships with peers or relationships with the opposite sex. And that means a person with a mental health disorder is likely not going to keep a relationship strong. They are likely not going to stay in a relationship because of the fear. They are likely not going to tolerate the other person because they don't understand that we are different. We have different personalities. So it will make them exhibit a personality that the other person cannot understand, and so this person will run away from them. It will make them become violent because certain mental disorders will cause you to become violent, aggressive, and in such situations, then it means the person can't keep relationships. The other thing about mental disorders is that you will continually be under the care of either a therapist or a psychiatrist, and that will deny you the chance of self-development. There's no time when you can plan your finances because somebody else has to plan the finances for you. There's no time where you can sit down with yourself and say, I want to initiate a certain move, and you do it because you have to be dependent on somebody else. So mental health seems to be like the central of all these other activities that we are involved in. Without a good mental health, then you don't have health, complete health. Remember, we normally say health without mental health is not health. Yes.
Nice. Health without mental health is not health.
Yes.
Na sasa tukimaliza sasa, what is the treatment for the adult child problem?
So first, the one that I would recommend highly is therapy.
Yes.
There are various forms of therapy that somebody can be involved in. We have therapists that do the psychodynamic approach, and the psychodynamics has to do with your childhood, bringing out the unconscious things into the conscious so that now you start looking at them and dealing with them. Maybe the fear is coming from you having been taken care of by a caregiver who used to slap you, who used to do. So you're fearing that if I am left alone, somebody might attack me as well, and that is something that is causing you problems. The other thing is therapists would use what we call the cognitive behavior therapy, which is very good because then it helps you to deal with those challenges and look at them from a realistic point of view. What really proves that if you are left to make a decision to join a certain university by yourself, you are not going to succeed. So challenging those thoughts that are defeating and making you become confident into the things that you can do yourself. Also, somebody will be taken through what we call the trauma therapy approaches to deal with the trauma. As you have seen from the definition from Dr. Janet, is that there is a point where this person, due to what was happening at home, due to the unpredictability, due to the lack of knowing or being sure this is going to happen, then you start living with doubt. That doubt can cause you to stay stagnated while other people of your age are doing things. So that's how mental health will be a problem. And now, the last one is many people who have this problem also have anxiety and depression. We know how depression is a condition that will cause you to be always isolating yourself. It will affect how you relate with people, because when you're isolating yourself, it means you cannot work in the office well with other people.
Sure.
You cannot sit in a classroom well with other people. You cannot, have the initiative to even do things like self-care for yourself. You can't. You feel like something has just happened to you, that you've become worthless, and you are, through the worthlessness, then you are not attempting to make anything. But it's not you doing it. It is the condition that you are in, which is the depressive mode, that will make this person feel that way. Yes.
Thank you very much. The very important thing that I would like our viewer to understand is that even if you are going through such a situation, or even you know someone who is in such a situation, it's important for you to know you're not alone, because there's therapy, there are community groups, and even if it makes talking to someone who gets what you're saying, it is a very, very important step for you to start getting help. Kwa hivyo cha mwisho, jambo la mwisho ni lipi ambalo ungependa mtazamaji wetu aweze kuelewa ama kufahamu when you're talking about some of these mental health issues?
Yes. Now, people have different challenges in life. And sometimes, not always, will we see people who have mental disorders that have come from the challenges of life. And that one we are saying from the environment. Sometimes the problems would have come also from, from birth. Somebody was born with some developmental challenge, so they were not able to navigate the milestones and therefore become complete grown. So when it comes to these other ones that are in the environment, try the best to avoid substance use, substance abuse. Even the little alcohol that we used to be told 1 portion for women and 2 portions for men has been shown to be causing mental challenges like alcohol use disorder. The other thing is to try and do a good self-care, managing stress. Being able to express yourself when you find yourself in a situation that you really doubt what to do and you really feel incapacitated. Sharing with a professional or sharing with somebody you trust. It could be your friend. It could be your teacher. It could be your pastor. It could be, any religious leader. The other thing that you need to do to take care of your mental health is, if possible, eat foods that do not affect the mental health negatively. For example, excessive consumption of coffee has been shown also to affect our mental health status. And that means for some people might find themselves not having good sleep from what they are eating, or consuming foods that will cause you to become obese, for example. And by so doing, it means if you're obese, your self-esteem might go down. And you see that is now affecting your emotions. And that is your mental health. So trying your best to do good self-care, resting enough, being part of a community, because humans are interactive and no man is an island. Find yourself in a community, like last time we talked about finding a safe space. Yes. If it's for men, find a group of men that you can fit in and be part of them, because by fitting where other people can challenge you, where you can challenge them, then it means there is a chance of growth and development. The other one is trying to get education around what mental health is. Educate yourself about depression, anxiety, what is it? Just the basics, just to know that next time I wake up and I have a headache that is not going away, and I have, like for the last 2 days, been having challenges with my finances, it could be I am having the headache from how my thoughts are and thinking of things I cannot change. Therefore, if there are things you cannot change, please let them go. and always plan in a way that you are able to manage yourself within the state that you are in. So those are some that I can say. And lastly, if you can get a chance to exercise, exercise has been shown as one of the best ways of managing your mental health, because when you exercise, your brain produces feel-good hormones known as endorphins, and those endorphins, when they circulate in your blood, you are able to exhibit, a mood that is good.
Nice.
And that is a very simple one, because exercise is cheap. You can walk, you can go jogging in the field. You just need to take yourself into action. Yes.
Kuna mtu amesikia exercise akafikiria, how am I going to pay for the
gym? Yes.
Go and walk.
Go and swim.
Go and swim. Do exercise in your house.
Yes.
Si lazima uende gym.
True.
All right?
True.
Thank you very much, Sami, for creating time. Kuja mahali hapa kuhakikisha kwamba mahusiano ambayo yanatendeka ndani yetu, mahusiano ambayo tunajenga na watu wengine, jinsi ambavyo tunatangamana na watu huko nje, it's in a good way, so that we can have a positive environment for us to grow, to glow, and to flourish.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Karibu.
Na mtazamaji wetu, thank you very much for creating time to be here, for us to learn, for us to create a place for us to be more happier, more healthier, and more healed. Remember, tunasema ya kwamba hapa ni mahali ambapo tumetengeneza ili tuweze kuinuana na kujengana. We are here to create a safe space for us to talk, for us to communicate, so that we can have a positive environment, a positive society, and positive families. Remember, you can't have a perfect family, but you can have a place, a family that is positive, that is helping us to grow and flourish in everything that you are doing. Ila kwa kudra zake Mwenyezi Mungu, see you next time.